UFC fighters who are likely on steroids. Now this video is a little bit different to the ones I usually do, but whenever the discussion of steroids comes along, it kind of annoys me because it's pretty annoying when you think about it. There's this competitive sport with a bunch of top level athletes, and then there's potentially these people behind the scenes taking steroids and just getting an easy path to the title shot. And today we're going to be talking about people that I think are on steroids just because of how they've acted, and maybe some other reasons that I'll list in the video. Please let me know if you agree with this or if I'm just waffling. But starting off, Israel Adesanya. Israel Adesanya, for me, I think he's on steroids, or at least has taken steroids before. First of all, obviously there's the one that everyone knows where he grew a breast in a fight. I mean, it's shown in this picture. I think it was the Costa fight. He grew a breast, and ever since that fight, ever since he grew a breast, he put an absolute beating on Costa, which has been one of the best performers of his career so far. I think he's on steroids. And if you notice, whenever anyone brings up steroids to Israel Adesanya, he gets really defensive over it, and he likes to just avoid talking about steroids at all cost. Gyno like that is not a normal thing, Israel. If you look in that image, gyno like that is not normal. And especially coincidental when he gets gyno and then goes and puts on the best performance of his entire career. I think he's on steroids. I think he gets emotional about it. I think he gets defensive about it. And I think there was this thing that he said where he says, "Oh, I'll give $1 million to anyone who can prove I'm on steroids." And bro, this guy's a multi-millionaire. If you're 100% not on steroids, why would you not offer your entire bank? Like, it's kind of weird how he's offering only 1 million. Why don't you offer every penny you've got? Because surely if you're not on steroids, you're willing to offer every penny you've got on you. So I think he's on steroids. I think maybe, I don't know about nowadays, maybe not now, but especially in that 2020 era against Paulo Costa, I think he's 100% dabbled in steroids in his career. Hence why he gets so defensive about it. Hence why he grew a breast, and hence why after getting that breast, he then put on the best performance of his career against Paulo Costa. But Israel Adesanya, I think he's on steroids. Yeah. One of Adesanya's friends though, Kamaru Usman, I think he's on steroids too. Let's talk about the cardio thing for a minute. This guy's got 5-round cardio and has had 5-round cardio for the past couple of title fights, but he hasn't been on a run in a decade. What cardio was this guy doing? What cardio was this guy doing to be able to have 5-round cardio? What was he doing? Swimming? Does swimming really get you prepared for a 5-round war in the octagon? And I'm going to say, if your knee isn't good enough to run, if you literally can't run because of your knee, how are you going to compete in a mixed martial arts fight where you get kicked, where you kick people and where you beat the crap out of each other? That doesn't add up. You can't run, but you're allowed to beat each other up and wrestle. Like, this guy's a wrestler. How is he wrestling people if he can't even go on a simple run? That's probably due to the use of steroids. I mean, he looks juiced. If you look in this image, listen, that could just be an impressive physique with a high muscle mass and low body fat. But I mean, when you look at that physique, it really, you know, if I saw a fitness influencer look like that, maybe I'd be talking about steroids to them. He's strangely strong as well. He's been able to outstrength every single one of his opponents so far. Like I said, maybe that's just because he tends to be a strong guy, but maybe that's due to steroids. And there's been multiple occasions where he's had acne on his shoulders and his back, which is a side effect of taking PEDs. I just think Usman's on steroids. I think he's on steroids. I think if you've got knees so bad that you can't go on a simple jog, I don't see how you're going to wrestle with people and kick people and get kicked. I just don't see that happening. I think he's on steroids, and I think he's hiding something from us. There's a reason the UFC probably haven't, there's probably a reason the UFC haven't exposed him for steroids, because maybe he brings pay-per-views, but either way, I think he's on steroids. And maybe recently he stopped taking steroids, which is why his performances got a lot worse, but yeah, maybe in the UK the testing was a lot different. I don't know. All I know is that I think he takes steroids. And yeah, moving on, I think Micheal Chandler's on some form of steroids. First of all, he's got high testosterone, which could just be because he's very manly, but that could be because he's taking testosterone. I mean, there's been an interview where he's been talking about him and his journey with testosterone, and he's got really high testosterone. And for a guy who's been accused of steroids with very, very, very low body fat, I mean, to get body fat that low, you've got to be doing some insane workouts to get body fat that low. His body fat is sub like 7% or something. I forgot what it was. I think it's like I don't know what it is, but he's got really low body fat. He looks very juiced for a natural athlete as well. Like, even if I saw a fitness influencer that looked like Micheal Chandler, I'd still be posing up the question of steroids, because he doesn't look natural. He's got extremely high testosterone. Maybe that's just me being a hater. Maybe he's just very built and, you know, he just happens to have high testosterone. But there's a couple of things here and there about the podcast where he said he's got high testosterone, and the performances he puts on, and the strength and the physique he has, that all add up. Maybe he's dabbling in steroids. I think he could be dabbling in some form of steroids. Maybe not direct PEDs, but something, maybe a little bit of test booster. Something that's going to give this guy an advantage. And I genuinely believe that Micheal Chandler is or has taken a steroid, especially in Bellator, because you look at him in Bellator and he was 10 times more ripped. So in his career in the past decade or what, I think he's taken steroids. I do not think Micheal Chandler is a natty athlete. Then we're going to go for an opponent of Micheal Chandler, or who's supposed to be an opponent. Conor McGregor. I think Conor McGregor has to be on some form of steroids, especially in the past 5 years. He was supposed to have a fight with Micheal Chandler at the end of this year. Maybe that's still going to happen, but the whole build-up for the Ultimate Fighter was supposed to be with his big fight against Micheal Chandler. But McGregor, for some reason, refuses to enter the USADA pool. I don't know why. I wonder why he's refusing to enter the USADA pool. The USADA pool is basically where they get steroid tested, and McGregor doesn't really want to get steroid tested, and I really wonder why that is. On top of that, he became huge out of nowhere. After the Poirier fight, after the leg break, he was just an average lightweight, and then he bulked up to like a middleweight. He's huge nowadays. Look at that picture. That is not a lightweight. That is a middleweight, light heavyweight type of guy right there. So he became huge out of nowhere. Maybe that's just because he decided to bulk, but I don't understand why as an athlete you'd decide to bulk, especially when you're a lightweight. So he became huge out of nowhere, which again could have been due to steroids, and he's got very strange behaviour. You look at his Twitter and his voice messages, and even the way he did interviews with Ariel Helwani a couple months back, he just doesn't seem like the guy he once was. Maybe that's because maybe that's not due to steroids, but he's got some dodgy behaviour going around. But yeah, he's built like a middleweight, refuses to enter the USADA pool. He's just a shell of a man he once was, man. Like, strange behaviour, isn't really normal, massive as well. He's so big, I don't know how he's going to make 155. You know, the fact that he became massive so quick as well, it was a span of like a year and he became huge. Like I said, maybe that's due to him getting a new training plan or something, but that could have definitely been because of steroids giving him a bit of muscle mass. But I think McGregor has or is on steroids, hence why he's refusing to enter the USADA pool. Next up, we've got Jared Cannonier. After watching that fight with Paulo Costa, I really do think he's on some form of steroids. You look at his physique at heavyweight, and I understand those are two weight divisions apart, but he used to be fat, now he's jacked. This guy's jacked out of his mind, a vein popping out of every single muscle. Could have been due to steroids. He's got insanely high cardio and output out of nowhere. This is what made me think he takes steroids, is the Vettori fight. You look at his fight with Brunson. I know he beat Brunson, but you look at his fight with Brunson and Adesanya, and you're like, he's not that, you know. You look at his fight with Brunson and Adesanya, you're like, he's just Jared Cannonier, just the average ploddy Jared Cannonier. And then the fight with Strickland, and he's improved a bit, but still Jared Cannonier. The Vettori fight, it was insane. And at this point, Vettori was still a top-level athlete. The only people he'd ever lost to was Adesanya and Whittaker, I think. And Vettori just came in and battered him for 5 rounds. There wasn't any stopping, just 5 rounds of high cardio out of nowhere. That cardio doesn't come out. You don't get cardio like that out of nowhere. I'm not saying his cardio was terrible, but you look at the Adesanya fight, which was literally 2 fights before this, and after round 3, he looked like he didn't really have anything left to offer. You look at the 5-round Vettori fight, he was battering him high output for the rest, like high output for the entire fight. Maybe he'd increased his cardio, but I just don't think his cardio, especially the fact that he's like 39 years old as well. I think he's like 39, 40 years old soon as well. That just doesn't seem realistic to me. I think he's taken some performance-enhancing drugs, and I think he is definitely taking some... Yeah, I think he's taken some performance-enhancing drugs, and he's on steroids ever since the Vettori fight. Maybe the UFC have decided to keep him in. Maybe he's, you know, managed to overcome the poor testing that the UFC have to offer, but I think Jared Cannonier may have taken some steroids in his time, especially recently after they had a Sanya fight, maybe in the Strickland fight as well, because I don't remember Jared Cannonier being this good before the Vettori fight. Anyway, then finally, I think Rafael Fiziev might be on steroids. Again, he's got some crazy high output. His chest just looks dodgy, man. You just look at his breast. You've got one at the right that looks normal, or one at the left that looks normal, and then one at the right that again looks like a bit of gyno going on there. I think he might be on steroids. Very quick recovery and high output. I know those are just things that a normal athlete has. There's something about me that tells me that Rafael Fiziev has taken some steroids in his time. Crazy good performances, and like I said, dodgy right breast. That's all I can really say for now. I know that's quite a weak argument, but there's just something telling me that Rafael Fiziev secretly behind the doors is taking steroids. And yeah, those are the fighters that I think are taking steroids. Please let me know if you agree or if this is a good enough list. I just think these people all have some form of evidence or suspicions that they are on steroids, and yeah, let me know what you think.